According to my unofficial data, 9 in 10 voice actors want to do video game work, and that other one probably does on some level, but just hasn't admitted it to themselves yet. My guest today, with his extensive resume of both award-nominated and award-winning video game voice work, I think is just the person to guide us towards our goals. So welcome to the show, Ian Russell.
Oh, thank you, Mark. You're too kind.
I want to start in 2014 with you.
Oh, okay.
I want to go back.
Assuming I can remember that far.
I want to go back a little bit. And I read something that you had said, which was, I had a choice, seek employment or make my own. I decided that I would try making my own first.
Yeah.
I want to hear about that story. And I would really love to hear about the mindset that you had at the time to approach the challenge of literally building something from nothing and doing it with a family.
Yeah, and in a country in which I knew nobody and knew nothing. What isn't often told in that story is that coming here and becoming a voice actor was my second expatriation, and the second time that I'd gone somewhere where I didn't know anybody and didn't know anything about what I was doing and created a business. So it wasn't the first time that I did that. Must be a bit of a
punishment.
But this time it was predicated on the fact that that we'd had the credit crunch. I was working I'd had almost 30 years in the finance business, working as a wealth manager, sales and all that. And you might remember the credit crunch and the banks, and it wasn't a great business to be in. And eventually it got to a point where I said, I'm too old for this. I can't cope with everything that's now being thrown at us that we had support to do previously, and they'd got rid of all the people. And my wife's American, and her mum had passed away, and her dad was in his 80s. And it was like, well, let's move and be closer to him in case he needs support. The bank gave me a little bit of money to go away, to relieve them of the burden of having to deal with me. I volunteered as tribute, as they say, fell on my sword. Yep. And we came here, and I had a choice, didn't I? I've got to go and do something. One of the ideas was to go to the local Jaguar dealer and sell Jaguars to unsuspecting Americans. And as my little story goes, hello, unsuspecting American, do step into this 2-door British coupe, only $250,000, you won't miss it, and sell cars. I was going to get the very loud jacket to go with it. But anyway, I had been doing a little bit of workshopping in voiceover thanks to my wife's Christmas gift from a couple of years previously. Never even considered it as something that would earn money, and went to the guy there and said, does anybody get paid to do this? That's how naive I was about it, really.
There's a few, maybe just a few, but
yeah, right. As I now understand, it's the largest hidden mountain, in the world almost. And he said, yes, people get paid. I said, would anybody hire me? He said, I don't see why not. And I said, okay, I need a demo. So we made a couple of demos, and I moved to the States and started spinning the wheels. And I gave myself a year. I wasn't, so naive that I was just going to keep throwing at it and until me and my family and everyone else was suffering interminably. Right. So I spanned the wheel. I gave myself a year. I set myself a fairly modest financial target. And if I meet that, then I'll extend the experiment. And then I did that. And then a second year, and I set myself a higher target that still wasn't probably quite enough money, really, but was getting close. And I did that. And then year 3, I went, okay, now it gets real. I have to earn enough money to do everything. And I did that. And it's kind of crazy that you look back. I'm in my 12th year now, and you're like, oh, I seem to have built a business somehow by hook or by crook. But it was born out of, mother is the invention, as the what's that phrase? The something is necessity is the mother of invention.
Yep.
And so we had to do something. We decided to come here for personal family reasons, but that still meant I had to find work. And I decided to, okay, let's do that and see what happens. And year on year, I keep doing that to see what happens, and I'm still here.
There is something to be said for that. I don't know if desperation is the right word, but I
No, no,
mean,
probably.
it probably is the right word, because I know that was when my last radio job came to an end in 2011. I was partway through the year, so I spent several months just, kind of moping around, feeling sorry for myself, trying to figure out what my next move was.
Hmm.
And by the end of that year, it had occurred to me that I was actually sustaining myself. I hadn't really thought about it
You
at
do.
that
You kind
point.
of look back with surprise and go, "Oh,
Yeah.
look how far I've come."
Now,
Uh,
granted, I was alone at the time, so single guy, and so I've always said, like, I had that going for me, right? Like, I
hmm.
can't imagine. I got a wife and 4 daughters now. I can't imagine trying to start this now with a wife and 4 daughters. But at the same time, I could not see a scenario where I was going to allow myself to have to move back home.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
so that
Knock, knock.
became, yeah,
Mom.
yeah. So that becomes incredibly motivating, right? And you find a way to do what you've got to do. So I would love to hear a little bit more about what that first year looked like, because it's not like you're an industry expert at that point, right? So you're trying to figure it all out. So what did that look like?
Yeah,
Where
I
did you
did it all
find the
wrong,
work? And
Mark. I did it all backwards.
that's the only way.
I'm sure. Um, uh, so, well, I got my nice booth and room and all everything now, but then I bought an all-in-one computer
Yep.
with all, the CD drive and everything built in. I bought a USB microphone because that meant I didn't have to spend money on an interface.
Yep.
So it was all about the finance and nothing about the quality or whatever.
Yep.
And I put the computer and the microphone in a card. At least I had the in this house that we had moved into. Up in the loft, there was some old foam. It looked like mattress foam, I think.
Okay.
And I lined a cardboard box with that and put that in the walk-in closet and put the USB microphone in that, computer off to one side. And I basically lived in my walk-in closet for a year and a half, just
So were you doing like
spinning the wheels.
casting sites at that point, like doing online casting and stuff, and
Yeah.
just auditioning your face off
Yeah.
until?
Yeah, because I didn't know any better.
Yep.
I had no idea.
I think if you go back into that time frame, I think that's probably what most of us were doing at that point, who were starting out, right? We were auditioning our faces off on online casting and
well, and
hoping
don't
that
forget,
something would
I
stick.
live in upstate South Carolina. There ain't nothing here.
Yep.
I had to stop myself from swearing then for a minute, but there was nothing. There's nothing here. There are a few studios here, but
Yep.
it's not a major market.
It's not
right?
a hot spot for
It's not a major market.
yeah. Yep.
So I had no choice. The internet was my only way of doing business. See, I'm also British in the heart of Southern Bible Belt, South Carolina. There's, again, I mean, because you talk a lot about planting seeds in your own back garden, and I'm like, nobody's going to hire me here, so I have to look outside.
Maybe that Jaguar dealer, but
well, ironically, not Jaguar, but I have done work for a local car dealer.
There you go.
Anyway, and there is work. Oddly enough, as it turns out, there is work here. I just didn't know how to look for it.
Yep.
And I'm quite fond of saying so. My first ever gig was a guy in New York, a 5-word radio drop for a guy. I probably got paid $50 or $100 for it. I don't even remember. And this was the mind-opening experience.
That was the proof of concept. I can actually make this work. I can actually
Well,
get paid.
I'm not sure it was that, but what really opened my mind was that my second ever gig was for a mobile phone repair shop for their telephone answering system in New Zealand. They both begin with N, with New, so New York, New Zealand. And I've been doing business with people in between those 2 points ever since.
I suddenly realized that
geography
is irrelevant. Right?
There's people everywhere.
Yep.
And I do think that a lot of new talent, particularly here in the US, don't look outside of this continent. They think it's all here, and there's just so much everywhere else in the world.
That's one of the things I have always said is your target market is anywhere in the world where your
Yeah,
language is spoken,
yeah. But
right?
I
Whatever language that is.
so I didn't sow any seeds really locally much, but I
Yep.
sue them everywhere. Sowed to them, sued them. So I didn't sue them. I sowed them everywhere else, and started searching particular cities. You know, say, oh well, this guy in Auckland hired me. Maybe there's someone else in Auckland that might hire me. You
Yep.
know, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And bit by bit, project by project, person by person. At the end of a year, I don't know, I probably had 40 clients or something at the end of, because you talk about the desperation, that I've got a family, I've got
Yep.
kids, I've got a wife, I've got a house, I've got bills, I've got a car
Yep.
to run, all that. Y- 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 and again, now I have a different slightly different mindset now, not entirely, but I would pretty much have done anything for just about anyone in almost any genre in
Yep.
order to earn $50 or $100 or whatever, just to keep. I would rather earn a little bit of money, even if it was not the right thing to do, to get the money because I needed the money, you know?
I think if any of us are being honest, that's in some version of that is exactly how we started. I mean, I was the same way, right? I didn't know any better at the time. I was taking whatever job was thrown at me. And obviously, over time, as I got better, as my business grew, as I started to figure things out, I was able to start to be a little bit more selective and whatever. But in the beginning, it's like, I got bills to pay, I got
Yeah.
a mortgage to pay.
And
Like,
when you
this
don't
is,
know any better, it's not surprising that the big casting sites are where people end up, because when
yep,
you go on the internet and search voiceover jobs or whatever,
yep.
that's who you see first. You go, oh, well, that's where I have to go then. So that's what you do.
So now we're a few years down the road.
Oh,
You've worked
yes.
on over 100 games and done over 150 voices
Oh,
in those
yeah.
games, which is a pretty impressive career stat.
Yeah, and if you think it didn't start that way,
Do you
that's not
remember?
averaged out, is it?
Yeah. Do you remember the first game, the
No.
first character? No?
No. I know what my first major character was, but I didn't know. The first game, I did no idea.
Did you set out with an intention of, I wanna be a video game voice actor, or
Nope.
was it one of these things where, wow, I seem to be booking a lot of these video games now, maybe I should focus a little more there?
There was definitely a tipping point. We can
Yeah,
talk about that if you want.
yeah,
That was 2021.
okay. Tell me
Um,
about it.
well, I'll rewind to 2019 first, which is kind of where the story starts. So I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years, and I put some work up for One Voice Awards in the UK. There wasn't a US version at that time, and I got nominated for video game for a Warhammer game that I had done, and I got nominated for Voice of the Year. And I didn't even know, because a lady rang me and said, "Congratulations!" I'm like, "On what?" For your video game and Voice of the Year nomination, and I cried.
Feels good, right? Knowing where you started, and honestly, like 2019, that is not that far down the road.
I've been, what, 5 years? I guess 5 years
Yeah.
in.
Yep.
Um, and I said to my wife, "I think I have to go. I think I have to fly to London, because what if I don't think I had no belief that I could
Sure.
win, but I have to go. I have
Yep.
to go." So I went, and that's kind of where the story, because that opened and that other door, that, oh wait, I have enough about what I'm doing that other people recognize as worthy. Whether you win or not, actually, if you
Yep.
get nominated, other people have judged your work to be worthy enough.
Yep.
So that's where that started. So then I started, okay, I'll do this a bit more. And the following year, I won Voice of the Year, which is like mind-blowingly surreal. But 2021 was Dallas, and I talked about remembering my first major game, which was, not that I knew it at the time, but it was the Payday franchise, and it was a character called Vernon Locke, who's a South African mercenary. And I finally gathered the courage to put some work of his up for the video game award, and I'm sat at the awards in Dallas. I've got Vince Labika sat next to me, and I'm saying to him, if I could win any award, this would be the one that I would crave most. That would build my ego, as it were. And he said, you could win it. And I'm like, look at the list of names.
Yeah.
No way is that going to be me. Anyway, my name came out of the hat, and I'm like, oh, goodness gracious me. I happen to have, anyway, so that was the tipping point. I was talking about
Yep.
this is where all this
Yep.
conversation started. And I sat down with my wife, and we talked about it, and we said, okay, we really need to make the best of this that we can. So we went through a fairly rigorous rebranding process. Now I'm still the British voice, and you can still see the grayscale,
Yep.
stuff. But we started reaching out more about, I'm a video game guy. I do video games. I went to every networky thing, conferencey thing. I trained with all the video game people. I went to Get Your Game On in LA, and just mixed with all of that, as I just immersed myself, really. And then sort of the following year and the year after that, I'm just like, can't stop booking video games. In 2022, I think I booked 30 or so in the first half of the year. It was just crazy. Now, they're not the most valuable genre in the world, but for sure they're a lot of fun. And then it's just like, it's a snowball. You build a reputation with a studio. They pitch, they ship
work
their game.
begets work, right? You prove yourself reliable, and
yeah. There's a studio in Poland. I've done a fair bit with them, and I'm sort of a fairly major character in one of their games. And I spoke to their community manager, and I said, hey, I'd love to be in your other game. And they went, well, that's all cast. There's nothing there. Anyway, about 2 weeks later, I got audition notice from who does their casting for some little NPC roles, and I auditioned and I was cast. So ask and ye shall receive, as it were. That's the relationship. If you build the relationship, you can have those kind of conversations. I'd love to be in your next one. And that puts the little seed. You talk about planting seeds. You're planting seeds in their head that, oh, wait, maybe Ian could be the old grumpy king in the corner, And
one of the things that I love about this is I've been a supporter of Sovis from the very beginning. I thought that the idea of having our own awards show and giving recognition to people in the community, I thought it was great. Now, I see it from the standpoint of the marketing guy, obviously, but there was a lot of cynicism around the idea of the award show and all of that sort of stuff. And it really does feel like, in some senses, the industry has divided into two camps of, I am pro award show and I am anti award show, and those two camps fight each other like Republicans and Democrats or something almost. But your story is exactly why there is value in these award shows, and the recognition that you get as a result of that, and how you can, if you choose, you can lean into that and leverage that.
Well, what do you think?
And
I
turn
say
that into something.
Yeah, my main thing now is not that I won, but that I've been nominated in 6 of the last 7 years.
Yep.
And that's key when I'm approaching a video game developer, or someone I don't know, or a cast or whatever. I want them to know that I have consistently produced for other video game people. And that's one way of describing it. You could put a big long list of credits. I've 100, whatever it is, 100 and some games and 200 and some characters, and that's great too. But nominated 6 of the last 7 years with 2 wins is a very concise way of saying, I kind of know a little bit about what I'm doing.
This.
So if you put your trust in me, if you think about it, as you go up the pyramid, the amount of money that is at stake for a video game development company is just eye-watering. Everything's at stake pretty much. And even for a smaller studio, when they ship their game, they've spent all the money pretty much. And if the game doesn't sell, they're dead in the water, because that's their revenue stream.
There's just this instant credibility that comes with, I mean, award nominated gives you a level of credibility. Award winning gives you another level of credibility. Multi award winning or multi nominated gives you a whole other level of credibility. And when you're talking to people who otherwise probably have no idea who you are, I mean, think about yourself and how you interact with businesses, service providers, etc. Like, are you going to the one that has the no-star reviews or the one that has the 5-star reviews? Or are you, you know
And
what I
there's a flip
mean?
side to that as well, Mark, is that there's an internal self-worth that I'm not even sure we honestly recognize very often, that something like that does. You can look at it. I have mine
We
right
are the
here.
most self-conscious bunch of people in the world, right? With just filled with self-doubt. And
Stroke my ego guy, I mean,
yeah, I no,
right?
I totally get that. The legitimacy isn't just for other people. It's for us just as much to be able to say, "Holy
Yeah.
crap,
But
okay.
I'm not sure it's a very popular thing to say. I won it, therefore it made me feel good.
Yep."
Uh,
I would that's exactly
and
how I felt like when I got I've never won yet, but I've had a couple of nominations and it felt to me like, okay, that's credibility. Like you
Mhm,
just give yourself a break now. You can do this. You're good at this
mhm.
or whatever. So,
And I don't know, things like IMDb,
yep,
that's on there, and you go look at an actor and you scroll down, and very often you'll say, well, what awards have they won?
yep.
What work have they done that's been recognized? And all of
Isn't
that
that how
just
they're all introduced now? Right? When somebody's the headline in a movie, it's the multi-Academy Award
well, it's
winning, what,
interesting. There
right?
was a film called The Dig. Right, this is another flavor of this. Why did I start doing this? And it's got Kerry Mulligan and Ralph Fiennes in it, I think it is.
Yep,
And they are both introduced on screen in the credits as Oscar nominated.
yep,
Not one,
yep,
Oscar nominated. And
yep.
yet that gives them a headlining
Absolutely.
credit. And we're in an industry that is somewhat driven by that shiny, glossy thing.
Yep,
Why do
yep.
the major TV networks stream the BAFTAs and the Oscars and so on? We're in a culture of celebrity in that sense,
Yep.
and the glossy, flashy, all that is part of that.
And that's it. It's just playing the game, right? It's playing the game the way the
Yeah,
entertainment industry, right?
yeah.
We sometimes think of voiceover industry, but like we're part of the entertainment industry, and this is how the entertainment industry plays the game.
I won't deny
Yep,
winning video game was just like I say, it was a for
yep,
me, a pivotal moment, and I'm
yep,
very proud of it.
yep.
Now I don't rub it in people's faces, but it's absolutely a part of my marketing,
Yeah. Well, why wouldn't it be?
and almost strategically.
Yep,
So I now have I don't want to talk about it too deeply, but there are certain things that if I can achieve, they'll adjust my marketing. So
yep,
I'm strategically thinking about that, about which piece of work is going to help me get to that next bit,
yep.
you know?
So talk about, you said it's Vernon Locke, right? That
Yeah,
was the role. So I recently had Andy Field on the show, and Andy talked
I
about,
listened.
yeah, he
We
talked
have a
about
lot of
booking
parallels, Andy and
Five
I.
Nights at Freddy's, right? And at the time, having no idea what that even was, and
Yeah,
having no idea how that was ultimately going to impact his career. So
yeah,
is Vernon, is that the
exactly
role
the
for
same.
you?
Yeah,
That's the role.
exactly the
So where
same.
did that come from?
Voices.com.
Voices.com.
Exactly
Yep.
the same as him. On the 2nd of November this year, that's the date I auditioned for Vernon Locke in 2015. It's 10 years
10 years of doing that
in
role.
a bit over a month, and it's grown to the point he was talking about, personal appearances. By the way, I listened because I was curious to the podcast you had with Andy, and I made 2 pages of notes. It was a
Nice.
great chat for me, anyway. Really
Oh,
resonated
100,
with me.
like, I mean, that guy knows what he's doing.
Absolutely
He's
does.
coming at it from every angle,
Yeah.
and he's definitely thought it through.
And
So
Locke is well, I have another one. Yeah, I can't go there quite yet. But anyway, I have other stuff that's going to make personal appearances a more. So I'm going to have to do that.
Tell me about the game and about the role.
Vernon Locke, he speaks like this. He's a supposedly South African
Okay.
mercenary.
Okay.
And the original audition notice said mercenary, South African mercenary even, I think it said. It didn't say what game it was. It was a modest budget,
Yep.
but I'm not South African. But I'm like, I'll give that a go. This is the desperation. I'll have a go at anything.
Yep.
Now, the voices.com platform is such that if you want, you can go back and look. So that's why I know it's November the 2nd, because I've been back to look, because, on, I think it's the 8th of November, I'm going to hold my first ever Streamly autograph signing thing as part of the 10th anniversary celebrations of Locke being in the game for 10 years. And there were 5 people that auditioned for that role. So I think I was the best of 5 bad people, I think. And I had no idea. It was another 2 years later before I even knew it was Payday.
Is it an independent game? Is it a big studio game? I legitimately, I don't. I should have researched this a little bit better. But
it's a Swedish game developer called Starbreeze.
Okay.
They're very big in Sweden.
Yep.
I'm not sure I would quite call them AAA, but AAA aspiring anyway. They both make and publish games. And Payday and Payday 2, which is where Locke was most present, had a game-playing community somewhere in the region of 9 or 10 million players worldwide.
I think that's the other fascinating thing about this is we get our minds and our eyes set towards the AAAs, right? We want something that's with Blizzard or whatever.
Yeah.
Name the studio. And sometimes I think that we do that at our own peril for people who are wanting to get into this industry, just that overlooking some of the other stuff that might be out there. Like, I'm sure when Five Nights at Freddy's was originally released on an independent platform like Steam, like nobody had any idea what it was going to become. And now it's $1 billion franchise. And like Andy said, he's like, I get to be a part of that. And he's been a part of it for a number of years now. And so keeping an open mind about all of these different opportunities, because you never know which one of those roles or which one of those games is going to be the one that's going to hit, that's going to resonate, that's going to open up the door to do cons or all of these other revenue streams or whatever, right?
I've been talking to my wife about this. I have a title. It's called Linked Manor of the Spark, and I play a German robot chef in it. I mean, with a sort of made-up language. But there are people involved in it that know other people, and I'm like, I don't know where this game's going to go, but it could go all the way because of the people that are involved.
Yep.
And I just don't know. I think it could be a creeper. But anyway, so Vernon Locke, so it was another 2 years before I even knew it was Payday. I got an email saying, come on, do this charity thing that we're doing on whatever it was. I'm like, do I have to fly somewhere? Do I have to wear a suit with a black tie, charity event? Do I have to sit at a table? What is it? Well, of course, it's an online internet. I had no idea.
Yep.
So then they have me on and I'm chatting away, and it's very clear that I know nothing about the game. Absolutely nothing. It's a bank heist game. It's a co-op player, 4 guys. They wear a mask and they run into a bank or a jeweler's or some other mobster's hideout, and they steal whatever it is they've been sent to steal. It's like kind of Charlie's Angels almost, Anyway, so suddenly, and the community went wild for it. They loved the fact that they were able to inform me about this game. They loved the fact that, and then they were, wait a minute, you're not South African, you're British, yeah? What other accents do you do then? I'm like, well, if you've done the research, you can see that I do a fair number. And so I took them on a little tour around the British Isles, of accents around the British Isles, and their charity stream blew up.
Wow.
With people going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then, I don't know, metaphorically 5 minutes later, Starbreeze are on the phone going, we need to have a chat with you. Oh dear, what did I do wrong? And it turns out that the guy who was the main operator in the game was an employee at Starbreeze, and he'd left and gone somewhere else, and they needed someone to become the main operator of the game. And I'm convinced in my own mind that the positive reaction that the community had to that stream contributed to the decision to take Locke, who was a once and done guest contractor, and bring him into the fold as the main contractor. That led another couple of years later to a flight to Barcelona for a week to be in a cutscene filming with Mira Furlan, who was in Lost and Babylon 5, filming with Damien Poitier, who was the original Thanos. Just real actors,
Opens up the doors.
And I'm like, oh
you
my
just
God.
have no idea, right?
You have no idea.
Yeah,
and so it's gone on, and here we are 10 years later, and I thought Locke's time was gonna come when they launched Payday 3 and he was no longer the main contractor, but another 2 years later and other stuff is happening that I can't talk about surrounding Locke, and it's just...
It's so hard to interview you video game guys and your NDAs that last for years on end.
There's a Warhammer animation which has just come out. Episode 3 drops a week on Wednesday. I'm allowed to say I'm in it, but I'm not allowed to say what character I am yet. And this is 2 years in the making.
It's got to be hard to sit on some of that stuff, right? Like I feel like at some point I'd be bursting. Like I am
bursting at the seams. Absolutely. Day to day, I don't think about it because you're focused on what you've got to do today.
Yep.
And then there'll be something crop up, and you'll go, oh, I wish I could. Oh, I just want
to be able to say
it. Not again because of the whole. Well, maybe partly because of the ego thing, but also because some of these things are important to say because they open other doors.
Well, and that's it, right? The credits are where that opens up. Particularly, it seems in video games, the credits can certainly be keys to unlock.
But yeah, I think in animation, at the dramatic end of the market, in video games, audio dramas, all that kind of thing, definitely that goes on.
Let's talk about character development, because I think that's one of the most fascinating parts of this, talking to video game people, animation people as well. And it's a whole different world where you have to tap into your acting ability. And we mentioned off the top, you've done 150 plus roles or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I would love to hear a little bit more about what does that development process look like for you when a spec lands in your inbox?
Well, often if you're lucky, there might be a picture.
Yeah.
There might be a paragraph of character description and probably 3 lines. And that gives you something to hang on to.
Yeah.
More often, there's no picture. It'll be male British 50-year-old king.
It's like as good as commercial specs sometimes.
I guess to some extent you lean into obvious stereotypical versions of when you've got those 3 lines and those 3 words, and sometimes the words themselves lead you a certain way.
I'm not gonna lie, when you said that Vernon Locke was a South African mercenary, my mind immediately went to Lethal Weapon 2. I don't know if you've ever seen Lethal Weapon 2.
A long time ago.
Yeah, Mel Gibson, right there.
Yeah.
But the bad guy, I'm pretty sure it was Lethal Weapon 2 where all the bad guys were South Africans, and that's like, I don't know, that's just where my mind goes, right? And so is it ever that, like, you see something and it takes you back to, oh, that person in a movie or that person in a book I read or that person
sometimes,
in a game or
and I think also as an actor, now I don't have formal acting training, so that whole making notes and intentions and context and all of that I don't really do that. I think I'm an intuitive actor.
Okay.
I think. And the other thing you have to be good at with video games, as with so many other things, you've got to be able to improvise, think on your feet. Because even if you get picked, so Audition, like you often don't have much to hang on to, so you just go with what pops into your head, and oh, this is a wizard, so he's a wizard, so a bit Gandalf like, he's a bad guy, so a bit Alan Rickman from Die Hard like,
Yep.
that sort of, or Harry Potter.
Mhm.
You lean into well-known, because in all probability the majority, especially in the indie world, we might come back to it, but the whole AAA versus the rest, they probably haven't, in many senses, done the kind of character development that you might think that they have as well.
They're
They
probably
are
thinking similar frames of reference would be my
very
guess, right?
likely, very
Yeah.
likely, and they are most smaller development companies are outsourcing a lot of writing. So they're not writing it themselves. They're the techie people. They can code and they can make arms move and things like that. And in terms of actors, a lot of them, they hire people and they've never hired an actor before. They've made a game. It's going to be a Dungeons and Dragons, and they need a wizard. And well, wizards are all grumpy old British blokes, aren't they? Or they need a dwarf. Well, that's a little Scottish bloke, isn't it? So that does, you do lean into that a fair amount. If there's a picture, if there's a bit more, then obviously you can do that. And if there is that, then I will spend a little time. I will always read everything they send. Sometimes they'll give you a YouTube link to something like this, and I will always go and watch that. So whatever they give you as a frame of reference, I will absolutely use.
You mentioned that you're not a classically trained actor, but obviously you're involved heavily and succeeding quite well in a space that is, I mean, it leans on acting more than many of the other genres. Is there anything that you do now? Like you mentioned improv, the importance of improv. Do you do, or have you done improv training, or are you just you said you're intuitive.
I have kids, Mark.
Bedtime stories, there's always some improv going on there.
I think I am the classic embodiment of, I was the dad. I did silly voices with the kid. I did, when I read the bed, I did all the silly voices around the dinner table, all that kind of thing. And that's, in some senses, what led Sandra to buying me the workshop experience in the first place. Now, the other bit is that's not so widely talked about from me or anyone else really about me is, very young, I was exposed to the theatre very young. My mother was a enthusiastic amateur or community theatre actress, director, writer. She did everything. So I probably get whatever I get from her genetically. My first waking memory, and it's a nice story to tell because I'm now an actor, but my first waking memory, living memory, is more smell than sight, actually. But I'm backstage at the theatre that my mother inhabited, and it's that slightly damp, musty wood smell that you get when wood's like been stored. It's that sort of smell. And then there's an archway, so I'm in the dark looking out to a lit stage. There's nothing on the stage, and then darkness beyond.
Yep.
And that's, but it's the smell that I get goosebumps thinking about it even now. So there was her, and then after university, I joined a local community theatre myself, and I ended up helping run it for best part of 10 years. So I'm not a classically trained actor, but I walked the boards for a decade. So, I've there's some background that's not obvious at first sight.
I have read Grover's "There's a Monster at the End of This Book" in more unique ways than I think probably any other person has on earth, right? And so it's true how something like being a dad can can play into that. And I
Yeah,
remember talking with Matt Fogarty. I had him on the podcast. He does a lot of imaging, but he, we talked about that. He said the same thing. It's like bedtime stories with my kids is
yeah.
some of the best acting and improv training that you can get.
If you're making your kids laugh, you know you're doing something
Yep.
right. You know.
So we've kind of hinted around it a little bit, but let's get into AAA versus indie. And what are some of those distinct differences,
it,
and why do you not want to overlook indie?
so most of us are familiar with Maslow's pyramid of needs, right?
Yep.
So if you hold that picture in your head, and the AAA are the very tiny point at the top of that pyramid.
Yep.
And whilst, Baldur's Gate, Call of Duty, whatever, they're multi-billion-dollar franchises. Think about it. Who are they going to hire to be the lead in their next big AAA? It ain't even going to be me, probably. It's going to be probably someone in LA or London, depending on what
Yep.
they're looking for. Probably you have to go in the studio every week for 3 years. It's someone who it's a Troy Baker, it's a Nolan
Yep.
North, it's it's one of these guys or girls. So if that's the case, and there are something in the region of 10,000 games released on Steam every year, and 3 of those are AAA, that means there's 9,997 games that are not AAA, that not all, but a good chunk want people to help populate their game.
Yep.
So why should you not ignore it? Because it's a multi-billion dollar business, bigger than film and TV put together.
Yep.
And it's on our doorstep everywhere.
And you might land the next Payday or Five Nights at
Well,
Freddy.
you're right. It's a little side note, but because of my background in finance, why do we call them AAA?
Well, those are the best rated bonds.
Right there, Mark. There's no judgment as to what makes a computer development company AAA. They've borrowed, I believe, that term from the finance market. That this is
has an aura about it that.
Well, it's the most likely to return your money at the end.
Yep.
When a AAA launches a game, ships a game, the probability of people not buying it is tiny. Anyway, that's an aside. But yeah, AA, large industry studios. There's plenty of studios that are making great games that people love. They might not have a 50 million player audience, but Payday has a 10 million community. They have maybe a smaller community, but very loyal, very dedicated.
That's something I have noticed. Very loyal. So where is the work coming from for you now? Is it still voices.com auditions? Are you mining Steam? Have you just built enough of a network now that you've got connections? Is it a combination?
You will not be surprised to hear all of the above.
All of the above, yeah.
I don't mind Steam so much. I'll tell you what, if you have IMDb Pro, so you do have to pay for it to get access to it, but IMDb, the DB is database.
Yep.
Ding. We tend to pigeonhole it as a film and TV place, or as a place where we can look at our credits, strike ourselves on that. But guess what? You can click the right buttons and you can search down. You can find video games. You can find video games in pre-production. You can find out who the casting director of that video game is, and now you have a lead.
Is that who you're reaching out to? Primarily looking for
casting
directors?
I don't think anything is primarily, though. It's whatever is there.
Because the development company could literally be like one guy in mom and dad's basement, right?
Well, it could be. It could be. There's another thing called GameDevMap.com, I think.
Okay.
And it's a map of the world with lots of little red dots on it, and you press on the red dot, and it brings you to a database with a map at the front of it, and you press on the dot, and it brings up a list of video game developers in that city. there are databases, information everywhere. I mean, I know you talk about Google, you know, you want 5 million results, put in, explain a video and
Yep.
whatever it is. But it's the same for everything.
Same
That's the
for
whole
everything.
thing. New York, New Zealand, everywhere. There's work everywhere. You just got to be willing to get up in the morning and sit in front of your computer and do the hustle. You've got to spin the wheel.
How much does social media factor in on this? Because I feel like there's pretty active gaming communities on social media. Is it an
Yeah,
active community for building
y-
relationships, or is there
yeah,
some lead
yeah,
generation and data
yeah,
mining done there
yeah,
too?
yeah. All of the. I'm not trying to be obtuse here. It's just like there's a balloon. Pop it. See what's inside. It's everywhere. There are. I would say even now, Twitter X
Yep.
is probably where gamers hang out more than other places. They'll put casting notices up. There are people who have built sites that try to attract all the castings into one place, so that if you follow that and get notifications for that, you get castings pop up in your Twitter feed, or Blue Sky is the Twitterati that didn't like Twitter anymore have
Yep.
largely gone to Blue Sky. So same
Yep.
thing is being replicated on Blue Sky. I still LinkedIn. I connect with developers on LinkedIn and develop conversations there. In that sense, it really is agents, specialist casting people. Mark Grau Recording Studios in LA does a lot of casting, but you kind of it's not, those are not necessarily the easiest places to find. It's the indie market on social media that's really easy to find.
One of the things that I noticed about you when I was doing some research for this interview was
I've been
I don't
stalked.
I don't think that I have ever seen a voice actor with their name and their demos and more profiles on more sites on the internet than I came up with for you.
Really?
And there was part of it that was like, this is fascinating. There's a part of it's like, okay, but none of this is helping me research for this. But I was like, I don't think there is a voiceover related site on the internet that you are not on. Like, that's the way it felt as I was going through all of these Google results. And
Well,
I was
you can
like,
thank my web developer for that.
this is a guy who hustles.
Yeah, well, and my wife, to be fair. So there's a part of this puzzle which involves my wife. I mean, not only did she buy me the workshop all those years ago, back in 2014, but when COVID hit, her work contract wasn't renewed, so we lost her income. And she was like rattling around, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I said, well, come help me in the business, do stuff that I'm not so keen on doing, like posting on social media, like keeping profiles on the internet and blah, blah, blah. And if we can increase the turnover of the business by as much or more than you were earning at the college, then you never have to go and find a job because you can work in the business. And that's exactly what happened. So all those profiles and that, a lot of that work is my wife has done that. And
It
she is
definitely helps.
constantly looking for places to put my name, because
I don't know if there's any left. I'm pretty sure from what I've done, you can tell her that she has done the most efficient job of putting you out there that I have ever seen, because it was just pages and pages and pages and sites that I had never heard of, that I had no idea existed. I was like, this guy is everywhere.
Well, reflected glory to Sandra. That's probably mostly her. And the point there is that if you have a profile, more profiles you have, the more likely a Google search will find you in relation to something and pop you up in
It's all
someone's
the
inquiry.
backlinks and
Yeah.
right. So, I mean, I have
I don't
said
get work from them
before,
all. Don't think they all
right,
supply me with work.
but
That
that's
is
not
not
where
the
the
case.
that's not where the ultimate value comes from, right? The ultimate value is all the backlinks, the credibility, the fact that you literally come up in so many different search
Yeah.
results. And that lends, if I do a search and I find a voice actor who comes up 3 times and a voice actor who comes up 400 times, I'm not going to look at those sites. I'm just going to assume this guy must be
Mhm.
legit. He's on 400
I had a
different sites.
lead last week, came in. It was a direct email. He had found me on another site, was looking for a Brit to do to replace another Brit that they'd used for a long time. And this is, classic.
Yep.
We're just someone's come in and done a bit of a refresh. Let's use a different voice. But
Yep.
they still wanted British, and they found me. But they found me somewhere else, and instead of going through that site, they then came and approached me direct, cut out the middleman.
Nice.
And I'm sure part of that is what you're saying, is that just everywhere.
You're just everywhere.
There is no escape.
I have said many times, I'm not the most gifted voice actor, but I'll out hustle you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something to be said for that. And I think your story proves that. I mean, obviously you're incredible at what you do, but you're hustling. Like, you're out there every day,
Right.
finding the opportunities, creating the opportunities, making the connections, whatever that is. Is it sending?
And you just never know. You just never know what's going to happen next. Someone you haven't spoken to in years suddenly pops up, but
Yep.
you had connected with them 5 years ago. That happened on LinkedIn last week. I not that not that they messaged me, but I saw a post that they had made looking for a British voice actor for some quite a narrow niche, and so I went to the message, found that I was connected from like 5 or 6 years ago, and went, oh, blah blah blah, saw your post, blah blah blah, maybe I might be a fit for you, whatever. And then we moved that to email, and now we're talking, and
Yep.
we just never know when this stuff's gonna raise its head. So social media, yeah. So for video games, just to reflect back on that, for video games, one of the important things about social media is that as you move up, as you get into those larger studios, the probability that there's someone going to check you out,
Yep.
that you are not acting like a numpty, increases.
Yes.
So having a positive social media presence it is an important thing when you are going to be involved in something which is heavily public facing.
That just makes me smile, just because I think about, having recently talked to Kelly Mashinsky, for example, casting director, and she's talking about how she's got, on average 600 auditions come in, and she's, got to have filters to narrow that down. And your social media could very well be the filter that narrows you down. And so sometimes it's not even that there's massive competition out there. You just have to not be an idiot online.
Mm-hmm.
and that could literally be the thing that get, particularly in an industry like video games. So talk to the voice actor who's listening right now, who wants to do video games, and they're trying to figure this out. And I love your story because you did it all unconventionally, right? Like, you just did it all unconventionally and made it work through pure hustle and determination and grit, it feels like. But to that voice actor who's trying to figure this out, what are one or two pieces of advice that you would give them to help them find a little bit of direction or a little bit of motivation to press on?
So I'm not a formally trained actor. I've talked about that, but I must have some natural ability.
Something's working there.
Something's, I must have something.
Yep.
But if that, I do think that working with people who are directors, not only do you get your face and your voice in front of them, but you learn about acting by working with directors.
Yep.
So do that. I mean, and when I was talking about my rebranding, that was one of the things. I worked with Kim Herden, I worked with Randall Ryan, I worked with Andrea Toyers, I worked with Tom Keegan. I sought people out who not only were casting, but were well respected, and I felt could give me something that I didn't already have. So do that. Go work with people, A, that can cast you, and B, that can teach you something about acting or about performing, or go and be a community actor, go and tread the boards, do that stuff. Yeah, people talk about improv, so the improv people, go learn about comedy. I don't think I'm a particularly great comedic actor, but again, treading the boards. I was in Panto in the UK, which is all about making people laugh in any way you can find. Break the fourth wall. the funniest thing that ever happened in Panto to me, well, no, maybe the second funniest thing, but one of the most things was I was playing a villain in Panto, and this 4-year-old boy came running down to the front there and like this, I'm gonna get you, and I'm like, what do I do? I'm meant to be the villain, blah blah blah. So I played the coward. I played the cowardly, and I ran away and ran up. So this was like the audience was up,
Yep.
like bleachers away from the
Yep.
stage, and we were down. So I ran up the stairs where he had come from, looking for his dad for protection. Just making it up as you go along.
Yeah.
That's
That's quick thinking on the spot.
Right. There was a moment where I don't know what to do.
Yep.
And then the inspiration, and you make people laugh.
Yep.
So make people laugh. And even if you're working with someone in the studio and it's a very serious thing, be prepared to be as relaxed as you can. And I know it's a stressful situation. I know that. And that I think, a decade later, I'm better at that now, comfortable in my own skin, if you like, as an actor, that I'm much more willing to be much more of me than perhaps I might have been the first year. Try and be as much of you as you can in that very unusual environment. That's the relationship bit.
Yep.
So do that.
I know that you have started speaking at some conferences. I know you were just at One Voice in Dallas. I've seen that you've done some workshops and things like that in the past. So obviously you've hit a point where you're able to give back a little bit, which is really cool when you reach that point in your career where people want to learn from you, or you feel like you have something to teach or something of value to offer. So talk about what you've got going on right now on that side. If somebody's interested in learning a little bit more, or working with you, or doing a workshop or something like that.
Where this comes from is throughout my entire career, I've ended up either being a teacher very early on in a high school, or in a sales environment, and they sent you away and you broke into teams, and then you had to come back and present. I was always the person who had to do the presenting at the end. I enjoy it. It's a weird, kind of self-inflicted misery almost. But but I have no desire. I've got a busy voiceover business.
Yep.
I have no desire to have a coaching business as well. I guess I could, but right now anyway, I have no desire to do that. But I do want to scratch the itch once in a while, which is why I put myself out onto the conference circuit, so I get to scratch that itch a little bit. I'm doing something with Christy Bowen in October, and that'll be so. I'm not a trained actor, so I don't believe I can teach people to act. I'm not a demo producer. I'm not a performance coach, but I do have this 30-year business career. So I do talk about that. When I talk, generally, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Yep.
What you can do to find work, how you can use the internet to your advantage, how you can, go and chat to people and network, all that kind of thing. I do talk about that.
That's the stuff people really want to know about.
But it's not sexy. It's not the glossy bit.
No, what they want you to say is, look, if you just do this one thing, you will open up the waterfall of work. And the reality is, if you do these 500 things consistently every day over time for years on end, the waterfall will open up.
That's the secret sauce, Mark. There's nothing else. And I'm in my 60s, and I still get up every morning with a drive to go and see what I can find. Because the one thing about marketing is that there's always something new to find. It's quite fascinating to clearly, self-help book. There's libraries full of these things that are trying to show you what the secret sauce is. And I actually don't really. So here's one thing I do talk about: time versus money.
Yep.
When we go to work in the morning for an employer, we exchange our time for money.
Yep.
When you are a freelancer, you have time, but no money. So you have to find someone who is willing to exchange your time for some money. And you've got to work all the marketing stuff. We don't get paid for doing that. I play a little like mental trick. I always know within a bit what my conversion rate is. Right, it's about 1 in 50 thereabouts.
Okay.
I know what my average case size is, and if I divide my average case size by 50, that tells me how much every audition I do is worth.
Yep.
Right. That means when I step in the booth to do an audition, it's not worth nothing. It's not for free. It actually has a value, and that's something that helps to keep me moving forwards. Smile, cold calling, smile while you dial, all that. Pick up the phone. Actually, don't put the phone down. Keep it held and just dial the next number. I'm old enough to have done that.
So you can be more efficient, right? You lose it every time you hang up. You lose 10 seconds.
Well, there's a psychological thing that it's actually very difficult to pick up the phone the first time.
Yep.
So don't put it down, because it's harder to pick it up than it is just to dial the next number, like psychologically. Yep. Anyway, all that stuff.
So much of it is a mental game, right?
So back to the thing for what should people do. I mean, I don't think that there is. Someone asked, what's your secret sauce? I work.
That is the secret sauce.
Hard.
That is the secret sauce, and I think people need to hear that, because I think we want something easier than that, because work is hard. And
there's always the story of being discovered, and Kate Moss walking down a London high street or whatever. There are always that, but the reality is the probability of that happening to you or me or anyone listening is minute in the extreme.
You are much more likely to get discovered if you're doing the work and getting the credits. You
just got to keep putting yourself in front of people, and suddenly one of those people. And we also know the entertainment business is very, once they've used you once, breaking through the door requires absolutely the hustle. Getting in the room with people is the next step. Showing them, like trailers, you do scratching, pitching for trailers, doing it for nothing, because eventually they'll come and they'll hire you for something. And once they've hired you once, they'll come and use the golden handcuffs once they've got you. And it's the same with everything, whether it's video games, animation, anything else. It is definitely about finding the people, doing good work, being consistent, being able to if you send something to them that they can hear, you best be able to reproduce it when you get inside the studio with them. All that stuff, real basic, probably basic stuff, but just do all of that.
Sometimes we just need to hear it over and over again to be reminded that it is
maybe we do
actually true. Yeah.
I set myself very simple. I don't have a very complex business plan, really, on a day-to-day basis. Find 10 people that I can audition for. Find another 10 people I can reach out to, and find another 10 people that I already know that I can say something to. And
it's that simple.
About it.
It's not easy, but it's that simple.
But it's a simple thing to hang on to say, have I done these 10 things? It's really not. It's an easy thing to keep a hold of, and you don't have to write it down constantly to remember it. It just, once you get, and it's
habit, right?
It's habit forming.
Yep, turn it into a habit. Yep.
So sorry, I haven't got something more.
No, this
secret,
is exactly
exactly
what people need to hear. So,
and if you want to be in video games, do what I did and absolutely focus on it. But learn to be a bit of an actor. I think I had to learn to be a bit more of an actor. I was like an intuitive actor. I think I still am that. But having worked with a bunch of people in video games and animation all over the place, and since then, I do think that there is something to be said for learning your craft, as the saying goes.
Well, Ian, this has been a masterclass. I know you say you don't want to teach or you don't want to coach or whatever, but I got to tell you just did for an hour.
Oh, thank you, Mark. That's very kind of you.
So thank you for that. And I know there are going to be a lot of people that are going to appreciate this, who are trying to crack that video game nut. And I think this last 10 minutes or so is probably some of the best stuff. It's the stuff that they're not going to want to hear as much, because it's where the work actually gets involved. But this is it. This is how it's done, right? So thank you for your honesty.
Comes back into when I was in sales, and big neon light, see more people.
Yep.
That's it.
That's it.
Be good at what you do, but do it in front of more people.
I appreciate that honesty. Ian, thank you.
You're very welcome. In terms of what I'm doing next, I mean, watch me on Instagram. It'll be on there probably. My wife will post it.
I better be careful, but for as good of a job as she is clearly doing in getting you online, I think it might be time for a raise. So you have to.
Oh, don't be saying that.
I'm going to cut that part into a short clip, and I'm going to send it to her.
She said it might be time for a raise the other day, and I said, but all the money is all ours. Don't worry about it. Really.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Till next time, I guess.